So hello everyone, welcome to our very first student sharing. So I'm today's moderator, Dr. Chen. So before we get started, I would like to introduce our speaker, Mr. Ke. Tingyan just graduated from NTNU with a major of electro-optical engineering and the minor of English. He was an exchange student in the US and he won the first prize of the 3-minute English presentation competition in 2022. He was also the TA of my EAP course in the last semester. So today he's going to share his academic English learning experiences and some awesome strategies with us. So if you'd like to ask him any questions, feel free to write them down in the chat box. Now please join me in welcoming Tingyan.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tim. So it's my privilege to be here to share about what I've learned about academic English. So let me share my screen real quick so that you can see the slides. Okay, so today I want to talk about academic English in terms of writing and speaking. And during the 4 years of the college, there were really a lot of interesting classes and helpful courses from my English minor and honors English program so that I can enhance my academic speaking and writing skills. For example, I took guided courses in my English minor, and I would like to share with you about what I've learned in the class. So today I'm going to talk about mainly 5 points. The first one is general English learning. I'll talk about what I've learned during the speaking classes and writing classes. And then I'm going to go into details about the academic speaking part, followed by the writing part as well. And after these two courses, I'm going to talk about the TA experience I have with Professor Christine, who has been helping me a lot with the TA classes as well. And last but not least, I'm going to talk about all the wrap up and the conclusions. So as I said, in my English minor, I took guided courses for 2 semesters in a row. And during the classes, I actually learned a lot of things, of which the first one is the importance of writing a topic sentence in an essay. Why do I say it's important is because if you have a topic sentence, then you'll be able to know what you want to talk about in the whole essay. That is to say, you won't digress, you won't stay away from the topic that you want to talk about. Instead, you can mainly focus on the core thing or the topic that you want to explain. And then for me, when I was starting to write an essay, I would start to think about the topic sentence. So when I'm writing each of the paragraph, I won't digress. So I will just try to stay on the main course. And the second part is the importance of peer review. So whether it's the guided courses that I've taken in NTNU or the later courses that I took in TCNJ, they all require students to do peer review. That is to say, if you need to know what you do with your essay, you have to have other people's opinions, right? So in the peer review section, what we did is that we would give some feedbacks to other people's writings, so you know what other people think about your essays, and then what you can put into practice to revise your essay so that you can have a better quality of your writings. And the next part I want to talk about is the public speaking. So in my English minor, I also took this course, which is public speaking of presentation. And then in this course, I learned the importance of hooking the audience in the first 30 seconds. That is to say, I believe everybody knows the importance of getting to attract other people's attention, right? So in the class, the professor talked about the importance of the first 30 seconds, because if you are able to let those audience to know what you want to talk about, then they will feel interested so that they could follow your step. And in my case, I always try to start with asking either a question or set up a scenario for my audience so that they know what I want to talk about. And then they'll feel a sense of interaction with them. So they don't feel like they were just entirely listening, but they also are in the part of my speech. And the second part is the use of body language. So I believe a lot of people would do either gestures, or when you are giving some emphasis on your topic, you would do your finger pointings. And that is something that I also applied in many of the public speaking that I have, because I feel like it's really important to know and to emphasize what you want to talk about so that your audience know what it feels like to focus on the points that you want to talk about. Okay, so with that being said, I want to also keep going to speak about the academic speaking part. So when I was taking the public speaking presentation classes, my professor actually informed me that there was a 3-minute English presentation competition hosted by NTNU, which I thought was really interesting. So my professor actually encouraged me to try to sign up for that, and I did. And because it was last year, so it was still during the COVID time, right? So everything was pretty much online, and that included my presentation competition as well. So first of all, I want to talk about the strategies that I adopted from the public speaking course of the competition that I joined. And there are going to be 3 main parts. The first one is delivery. So delivery is more about how you want to deliver your presentation when you are giving a speech or when you are giving an important presentation. And with that being said, the first one is the interaction. So when I was recording the video that I was going to upload for the competition presentation, I always try to imagine I was actually talking to people who were standing in front of me instead of just me talking to the camera. That might seem simple, but it actually helped a lot when you are giving a speech, because people could actually feel that you were being genuine, meaning they could feel like you are actually talking to them instead of just you talking to the camera. And also I apply body language, which I mentioned earlier, the importance of having to give your gesture or to use your hands to point out your points. And that, as well as the tones. So tones really matters, because when you are giving a speech, you need to let your audience know what you want to focus on, right? So when you are talking about something really important, which is going to be your core main part of your speech, then you will address it by probably adding your tones or to have a different pitch so that they know, oh, that's something really important, and then they will start focusing on that. And the last one I want to talk about is the pace. So one of the feedback that the judges gave me is that they really like my pace, because when I'm trying to talk about something important, I will slow down, and then I will try to make it sound as clear as possible. So you don't just like mumbling or you speak very fast that your audience don't understand what you're trying to say, but it's more like you saying it out loud, and then they will know, oh, you are trying to make a point. So these are the 3 parts I want to talk about in the delivery part. Okay. And the second one is the content of my presentation. So this is one of the strategies I also want to talk about. In my case, for the 3-minute presentation, we had to choose one of the SDG goals out of the given 5 before starting to record the video that you want to upload for your first round or your last round. And I actually chose SDG 5, which was gender equality. Now you might be wondering, why did I decide to choose this one instead of all the other 4? Well, for me, it actually took a lot of time to actually decide which one I want, because I think all of them are really important and I couldn't really decide which one I want. So what I did is that I actually spent a lot of time choosing the one that I'm familiar with, And later on, when I was rewatching one of my all-time favorite sitcoms on Netflix, there was a show called One Day at a Time, which I showed on a slide, if you saw that. And what happened was that there was an episode of the show that was talking about how the society was treating women and men differently. And they also talked about how men loved to explain every single detail for women as if they knew nothing. And that kind of phenomenon might seem familiar with you, and that is called mansplaining. So that was the moment that I knew I found the right topic that I wanted to talk about, because I think that is the phenomenon that happens pretty much every day in the society, but not many people are realizing that they were actually doing it. So mansplaining became the most important part of my presentation. And after I came up with the topic, I just decided to go with the details of mansplaining, and I looked up a lot of resources on the internet about what you can do to either stop the mansplaining or make things better. And remember earlier when I said I set up a scenario for my audience, and I actually put into practice of that strategy as well in my presentation. And that scenario was about a mansplaining happening in a workplace. So what happened was that I set up a scenario for my audience saying there was a woman who was about to give a speech in a big conference. But when that woman was holding a microphone and when she was about to start, a man suddenly just took over. And then he just started to explain every single detail for her, which was mansplaining. And that might sound extreme, but that actually happened. And I think the judges find it very interesting because that's how I started to explain the phenomenon that I want to show to them. Okay, and that is the content part. Okay, and the last one I want to talk about is the slides. So there are two main points that I want to talk about. The first one is that you have to keep it simple. Just keep as simple as it could be, because you don't want to put too much details in your one single slide. So for the competition that I joined, we can only upload one, just like a whole slide. So my strategy was that I kept it as simple as possible. And then I also put a lot of keywords in it so that when my audience and the judges were looking at the slide, they knew that those are the topic, and that's what I want to talk about in my presentation. Okay, and with that being said, I want to show you the slide that I made. Okay, so this is the slide that I made for the speech competition, and as you can see, the first one, that's get rid of mansplaining for good. That was my main topic because we all had to come up with one topic. And I choose this one because I think I came up with a pun that was pretty good. And so I discussed with my friend who also helped me with the topic as well. And then we talk about how the puns were used in for good, because for good could either mean permanently or for the good of the society. So that's what I also explained in the ending of my presentation. And I put into the keywords in it. So you can see there's a sentence saying for a woman's perspective, because that's what I want to talk about in my presentation. It's more about mentally part. And then I talk about mansplaining, and I introduce a hashtag he for she. That is one of the strategy that people used to stop or to better shape mansplaining. And then the last one at the bottom of the slide is general solution that I came up with. So it's really important to respect each other's differences, and that's also the important part that I talk about in the slide. Okay, so I want to wrap up what I mentioned earlier for these three strategies. So delivery, content, and slides. With those three parts being held, I'm pretty sure that the speaking part is going to be good, because once you are able to focus on these three things, then you can do well on your presentation. And then your audience, whether it's the judges or people that you're talking to, can really feel that you have the passion or the confidence that you are trying to give. Okay, so now I want to play a video here that is going to wrap up everything I said as well, but there are also some more details in a video that you can refer to.
Hi everyone, I'm Tim, who is the winner in this year's competition. Today I would like to share with you about how I prepped for my presentation. This year we had to choose a topic from some of the SDGs, and I chose gender equality. And to do so, I actually did some research on the internet before I shot a video. For example, I tried to include some campaigns on the internet that people had been organizing, and I put that in my presentation so that when people were listening to them, they could feel more related to the presentation. And there are two suggestions that I would like to share with you. First of all, when you are recording a video, you want to create more interaction with your audience, because that is how you can hook the audience. For example, you can maybe open up with a question, or you can invite them to think about something. And in my case, I try to invite my audience to imagine about something that I set up for them. And by doing so, they can feel more related to your presentation, and that's how we can do it. And second of all, maybe you can try to include some personal experiences and personal stories in your presentation so that people can feel more motivated and inspired by your story. And in my case, I try to include a character, like I try to quote a character from one of my favorite American sitcoms about some phenomenon that I was talking about. And by doing so, that people can feel that, oh, they know what you're talking about, because they might know what you want to share with them. And then that's something you can do to make your presentation more legit. So this is what I want to share with you, and I hope you can learn.
What I want to show you is that you can also put into some personal stories or some characters to your presentation so that your audience know what you want to talk about, and then they'll feel more related to your story. So I also want to show you the feedback that I got from the judges. So as you can see, they really care about whether you put confidence in your presentation. So for me, they think it's really important to have interaction with your audience, which was what I was talking about, to feel that kind of interaction, even though you were having an online style of the presentation. And then for the final round of the speech, they also mentioned about the pace and the gestures, which was also important because you need them to know that you are making an effort. And then, yeah, last but not least, the confidence is really important, because when you are familiar with your content, then you are going to talk about something that comes from your heart, and that's going to sound more legit. Okay, so above is the academic speaking part. Now I want to move on to the academic writing part. And just in this following section, I will briefly share some of my academic writing experiences and some of the strategies with you based on my exchange and working experiences. So last year, when I was in the last year of my uni, which was my senior year, I went on a exchange program at the College of New Jersey in the States for a semester. And I want to briefly talk about the whole exchange program part. So as you know, each year, NTNU has 2 chances for students to go on a exchange program, and then you can choose your own school based on the list of schools that they provided. And the one I applied for is the school-to-school program. So there were less limitation for the course selections, meaning I could take as wild as courses that I want. So it's not limited to your own major, but all the courses that they provided in the semester. So for me, I chose 4 courses, which were Spanish 102, Spanish oral proficiency class, and 1 gym activities. And there's 1 academic writing that I will talk about later. And during these 4 courses, So for example, in the Spanish, we did a lot of talking, presentation, and essays. And I feel like that is also a way for people to learn a language, whether it's English, Chinese, or Spanish. So we also did the same thing about speaking a lot and writing a lot. And for the OPC class, we did a lot of games in order to improve the speaking part. So it kind of got me thinking that when I was learning academic speaking for English as well, we also did a lot of games and then a lot of writings, because that's how you can better shape a language. And I think that really helped. Yeah. And for the team activities that I attended, we did a lot of sports, which were all conducted in English. So it also helped me with my English speaking, because during the class, all the instructions were conducted in English. So sometimes I didn't really know what the coach was saying. So what I would do is that I would ask my classmates and then just try to know what they were doing. For example, for the warm-ups exercises, or for all the instructions that we were about to have. And that really helped. So that's how I got familiar with all the English instructions. And as for the academic writing class, I will spend some time talking about more details. So the first one I want to talk about is the reason that I wanted to take this course. So in the beginning, I'm really interested in English writing. So when I found out TCNJ offered this course for academic writing, I decided to take it. But they actually had a lot of academic writings for different fields. They have, for example, they have education, they have humanistic field for engineering and marketing, which was the one that I took. So I decided to take the marketing one because on the syllabus, the professor talked about how the use of social media was promoted in order to do marketing. And I found it really interesting. So I decided to take this one. Also, another reason why I wanted to take this course was because before I studied abroad, I had to take the TOEFL exam, which was pretty much everyone who wanted to study abroad had to do, right? So that also included the writing part. And to be honest, I didn't really do well on the writing part. So I figured I could actually use this opportunity to better work on my academic writing. And it really helped because, so for the TOEFL exam, we had to write a lot of essays with a short period of time. So when we are having our academic writing course, the professor also gave us a limit of time, say 20 minutes or 30 minutes, and then you had to come up with a whole essay. So that really helped, and I really love it. So I'm really glad that I took that class. And so I'm going to talk about the classes. So the first one is the student's background. So because this class is a freshman year academic writing, so it's not limited to one of the specific majors, but as long as you want to take this course and then you are from the school, then you can take it. So most of the classmates of mine were actually freshmen. I remember I was the only senior there, and then there was also another junior who was a transfer. So we were like two of the oldest in the class, but in the class, we mainly focus on the influence of marketing on different generations. And that was pretty interesting because in that class, you can see there were a lot of generations, at least two generations. So we have millennials, and then we also have Gen Z. So you'll know how different type of people from different generations use social media as a marketing strategy. And that was pretty interesting. That is to say, we talk about different types of advertisements or commercials that targeted on people. For example, how the commercials use emotion to inspire their audiences, which is pathos, and they also use celebrities to promote the product, which was the use of ethos that I'm going to talk about later. And as for the in-class group discussion, we also did a lot of writing, either it's during the class or after the class as the assignment. So for the academic writing class that I attended in TCNJ, we had to submit at least 3 whole essays as a assignment. And then I want to show you what I did for the assignment as well. So let me, okay. So first of all, this is the peer review that we did during the class. So this is for one of my first essays. So it was a little bit rough. And as you can see, there were a lot of feedbacks that we got from other students. And since they were all English speaker, so they were really fluent with giving the instructions as well. And then I also had to do the peer review to other people. So we did the same thing. We would browse the whole essay, and then we would give really detailed like suggestions, for example, to other people's writing. And then you can see how you do better with the whole writing. And those are the suggestions that I got from my classmates, which really helped with my revision of the whole essay. Okay. And there's also, okay, so I'm going to put out this one first, but I'm going to talk about this. So during the class, we had a special day for the assignment, which was the library session. So in this session, we actually had to go to the library in one of the day and learn how to look for the resources or the sources of the information that we needed. For example, we had to come up with a working question that we wanted to talk about. And as you can see right here, my question was, because this is a marketing class, so my question had to be related to marketing, and I chose, can online marketing promote the sales of a product for a company? And I wanted to know about the answer for that. So what we did for this assignment is that the professor asked us to find at least one of the source for journal, book, and article on the school library website. And you have to write down all the detail and the information that you had looked. So for this one, we have to put out the name of the book or the journal and the article and the author, and then you have to write a paragraph about why you chose this one. And then you do 3 of them. So that's the book session. And then, so for that session, I was going to attend because I feel really excited for that, but I kind of got sick like the day before, so I didn't really attend that session. So what I did was that after the class, I emailed my professor saying I was really sick. And then I asked for what they did for the entire class. And then she showed me the website. So I was still being able to make up for the class and the assignment that I had to do. Okay. So this is the assignment, the peer review I talk about. And during the class, there was also a group sharing with the tutor. So at the end of the class, well, it was pretty much about the last essay that we had to submit. So what the professor did was that she invited some tutors from the tutor sessions at TCNJ, and then our professor invited them to come to the class and actually talk to us about how we could revise our essays and how we could use the help of the tutoring center to better shape or polish your writings. And I think that really helped a lot as well, because the day before, our professor asked us to print out the essays that we wanted to talk about. And with the help of the tutor, we could revise it and then resubmit it to the professor, and then she will regrade your whole thing. But with the help with the tutor, you can also know what you could put into thoughts about your writing. And then there was also group sharing with other classmates. So we talked a lot about how we did with our essays and then how we could better shape our essays as well. And after the the whole semester. So at the last day of the class, our professor said, because our class was at 9:30 in the morning on Friday, and that was pretty much the last course that we had. So the professor decided to put on a movie on Netflix, and then that movie was called The Social Dilemma. So we look about that, or we watch about that movie, and then at the end of the class, we actually talk about what kind of marketing strategy was used during the movie, and then how the social media would send the public a lot of ads and commercials with them knowing. So with that being said, I actually kind of want to ask you a question. So for me, I know about you, but whenever I'm using either Instagram or Facebook, YouTube, when I actually look up for something on Google earlier, and then after I finish my research, I would start using my social media, and then some ads about the keyword that I just put on would pop out to the ads on whether one of the social media that I mentioned. And that actually happened quite a lot. I don't know how they did it, but that was really interesting because sometimes I didn't use the public information to look for the keywords, but still they somehow managed to find the thing that I was browsing, and then they would show me the ads. Well, sometimes I find it quite annoying because I feel like they were actually listening to what I'm saying, but I'm just saying it was pretty cool. And how we talk about our own thoughts, like during the last course, like after we watched the movie, we talk about what we thought about the movie and share with each other about what we think with how the society was using social media to promote either marketing strategy or any kind of product or service that they want to talk about. And this is actually the spirit of English academic speaking, because you need to use a lot of facts and information in order to either debate or talk to other people about something that you want to talk about. And I really appreciate it that our professor played that movie and then let us talk about our thoughts, because it really helped, whether it's for the marketing strategy or the English speaking part. Okay. And now I want to talk about the tutor services that I mentioned earlier. But this is quite interesting because you see, not only did TCNJ has this tutor session service, but NTNU also has this kind of service as well, which is called CAL, Center for Academic Literacy. So like most of the college in the States, TCNJ offers the system, which was the tutoring session, where students can find some help, whether it's about English academic writing or one of the classes they have, for example, like Spanish, like any other writing classes you have as well. And during the semester, I booked a session in academic writing because I wanted to polish my essay, and then I could really use some help from an experienced tutor who also helped me a lot with my writing, and I want to get some perspective from them. So in this part, I want to talk about the details of the service between NTNU and TCNJ. So the first one is the NTNU academic speaking. So before I went to the States, I actually booked a session from NTNU CAL as well for the speaking part, because I wanted to practice my English, and I also wanted to talk about the TOEFL speaking part as well. So what I did was that I uploaded a material that I want the tutor to help me to practice with, which was the topic for speaking. And I uploaded the speaking example sheet I found online for TOEFL. And then the tutor did help me with it, which was pretty good because I got to practice a lot for academic speaking. And after the session, we still had some time. So the tutor who used to study in the States as well helped me with all the traveling tips that I had in the States. And then she also talked about what kind of achievement that I wanted to do during my stay studying abroad, which was also helpful because she got me thinking about the purposes of doing exchange program, and that got me rethinking of the whole motivation that I wanted to do. And the second one is the academic writing in TCNJ. So I attended one of the academic writing sessions in the tutor center in TCNJ. Because of the reason I mentioned, that I want to better polish my essay, but also because the professor said we could upload a revised version after attending one of the writing session, whether it's with the tutor from the tutor session, or we could also do one meeting with the professor during her office hours. But I chose to do the tutor session because I think it might be really interesting to learn from an experienced tutor at my age. So we could find out what we could do to better do with our essay and to help, and what kind of help we could get from the tutors. So for example, my topic for the first essay I needed to submit was Spotify successfully promoted its service through the up-to-date campaigns. And here I want to show you the essay that I did. Okay, so this is the topic that we had. So because it was about Spotify, the use of Spotify and the service that they had. So after booking a session from a tutor center, I found a tutor who is an English and secondary education major. She's an experienced tutor. She was really wonderful and nice. She did give me a lot of new thoughts that I hadn't thought of, and the inspirations that I could actually put into my essay. For example, because my topic was about the marketing strategies of Spotify, like the company. So my tutor actually opened the Spotify of her on her laptop, and then she showed me the Spotify Wrapped she had, which is the annual thingy that Spotify play at the end of December. I'm pretty sure like most of people had heard of it, right? So that was pretty cool because that is the campaign that Spotify came up with. And you actually use it in my essay as a personal experience. And also the playlist that created specifically to each user. And the tutor told me that I could think about who Spotify was mostly targeting for the promotion of their music streaming services. So for this one, as you know, it's probably for teenagers, right? Or people in their 20s, 30s. So that would be the generation between millennials and Gen Z, and how people in this generation receive new information, which was mostly from social media, right? So after receiving the suggestions and the inspiration from a tutor, I revised my essay, and I came from pretty much 1.5 pages to total 2 pages and a little bit more, because I added a lot of new thoughts into my essay. And the professor did give me a good feedback about that because she really liked the new thoughts about how I use the strategies of Spotify from the different target of the generation. Okay. As for the tutor session, I would like to also talk about one thing more, that is the flexibility between TCNJ tutor session. So since the tutoring center closes at 4 p.m. at the exchange school that I went to, the tutor sessions after 4 p.m. are held virtually. But personally, I actually prefer doing a face-to-face session. So what I did is that when I booked the session, I wrote an email to my tutor asking if I could do a face-to-face meeting with her. And she was really nice. She said yes. So we ended up finding a place in the library. There was a cafe in the library, and then we just stayed there for a 45-minute tutor session. And I really appreciate the flexibility that my tutor gave me, because it's really easy to book a session and then to choose a place that you wanted to do. But before 4 p.m., they also provide you a session, which was the writing center that they have on campus. So you don't have to worry about where you want them to do that for the location. It's all set. It's pretty sweet. No. Okay. And next, I'm going to talk about the TA experience of mine, because Earlier, as Professor Christine mentioned, I was her teaching assistant for her academic English writing classes. And I also took the academic writing courses in TCNJ. So I want to share with you about the contents and the students' responses for these two classes. So after I took one academic writing course at TCNJ in the States and became the teaching assistant later, here are some similarities and difference between these two courses that I've noticed. And I want to talk about them and share with you. So the first similarities is the building of the structures of the academic writing for essays. Both of the classes focus on the structure very well. So when we were writing the essay, we know from the professor how important it is to build a whole structure for your writing so that you don't either digress or you can focus on what you want to talk about. And then in an academic writing class here at NTNU, the professor talked about the APA form and the literature review and all the other important stuff that we did during the class. That is one of the similarities that we have between these two classes. And the second one is the variety of the academic backgrounds of the students. So for the class in NTNU, it was a common English for sophomore. So there are a lot of students from different backgrounds. But because the courses that I had was mostly about education and humanistic community at NTNU, so there that was the field that our classes was about. But the one that I had at TCNJ was about marketing, and that one, because it was a freshman year writing, so also there were a lot of students from different backgrounds, such as computer science, engineering, all kinds of engineering, and education, English teaching, as much as you can think of. Those are a lot of backgrounds. And the third one that I want to talk about is the group discussions involved in both courses. Because in the class, we use a lot of group discussions, whether it's for your essay, meaning the peer review, or the topics that the professors were talking about during the class. And then we as a student could also share about opinions, whether it's for your fellow students or with the professor. And I really appreciate it because that not only help you with the English writing because you know what you want to talk about, but also help you to train your public speaking experience because that actually help with your speaking part. So I really like the group discussions that we had both for the class in TCNJ and in NTNU. And the last one is the writing center that I was talking about. So for NTNU, we have CAL, right? And for TCNJ, we also have the writing center. Both of the instructors encourage our students to use the writing center because Exhibit A, it was free, and Exhibit B, because they hire experienced tutors to help you with your writing or speaking or any other field that you have. And I think that was really good because with the help of an experienced tutor, you could revise your essay. So these four are the similarities that we had during these two courses. And now I want to move on to the difference. The difference, there are three differences that I've noticed. The first one is the size of the class. The class that I had at TCNJ was pretty small. I remember there were only 12 students, including me, in the class. So it was pretty small, but it has its own advantage because with that small group of class, the professor could actually talk to students with more time, like with each one of the students. And the class in NTNU was pretty big. I remember there were at least 20 students in each class, but it also has its own advantage because with a large group of students, you can share with your thoughts with different people every time. And then they'll give you different feedback. So you get to know what kind of thoughts they have from different people with different backgrounds. So I think both sizes have its own advantages, and I got to experience them, and it's really good. It's really cool. Yeah. And the second one is the different areas targeted. So as I mentioned before, the one at TCNJ I had was about marketing. So during the class, we talk about a lot of marketing strategies used in the class. For example, when the commercials was talking about the use of emotion to trigger your audience, which was the use of pathos, it helped with the audience to understand and to have empathy. Or they also use ethos, which was one of the celebrities that the commercial had, and then they talk about things that the audience like. Or they use a lot of facts or statistics, which was the use of logos. They talk about how they use facts into their commercials so that the audience know the credibility and the authenticity they have. As for the class in NTNU, because the field was about education and humanistic community, so what the professor did during the class was that the students has to find one of the topics that they were interested in, and they talk about them during the class, and they write a lot of essays about them. So we talk about the structures in the class in NTNU, and then we also talk about the content, the literature review, which were something that we didn't mention back in the class of my at TCNJ. But that was because it was different field, and I think that was pretty cool to get to experience different fields at the same academic writing class. And the last one is the overall purpose for the two courses. So as I mentioned before, they talk about the marketing strategies in TCNJ, but they talk about humanistic community and education field in NTNU. So with different target in different courses, they have different outcome and different syllabus. Okay. So last but not least, I want to talk about how I will put academic writing and academic speaking into use in my future life, meaning like what I'm going to do in the future. So the first thing is that because pretty much I'm going to serve in the army after the summer. So, but instead of the usual army thingy that I'm going to do, I chose to do a military service on a diplomatic mission in a foreign country. That is to say, I'll be having a lot of time speaking or writing English because the program was that I'm going to be assigned to one of the country that has a diplomatic relation with us, with Taiwan. So I haven't know which country that I'm going to be assigned to, but I'm pretty sure the use of academic writing and speaking will come in handy because my job will be to design any program related information, and I'll need to write formally in terms of correspondences, right? So that is to say, English writing is going to come in handy. And the second one is the future job of mine. So for me, I'm considering to find a sales job in a tech foreign company, meaning I still need to use the skills that I've learned in terms of academic speaking and writing, such as writing a proper mail to either the clients, my colleagues, or my boss. And I will be giving a presentation in English so that with the 4 years of college of mine, with the academic English experience, I believe that they are going to help me a lot. And I really appreciate what NTNU has offered because with this experience, whether you are going to do an English related job in the future or any kind of field, these are going to help you whatsoever. So that's the final topic that I want to talk about. Okay. Yeah, so I really appreciate that you being here today. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me if you have anything that you want to talk to me about. And below is the mail of mine. So just shoot me an email if you have any question.